Shishimana's divine grace, founder of Iskana Bhai, Charanara, Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Granthara Shrimadbhagavatam, Ki Their most merciful Lordship, Shri Radhakunja Vihari, Ki Shri Jagannath, Shri Baladev, Maya Subhadra, Ki Shri Nathaji, Shri Balagopal, Ki Shri Shri Gaurnitai, Ki Nitai Go Prema, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the Lord Spirit of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya namaskritya
Narayanam namaskritya
naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
tato jayamudiraya nasta prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
bhagavati uttama shloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
bhaktir bhagavati naistaki. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 13. Text 13. Samstite tirate pandau. Samstite tirate pandau. Prita bala praja badhu. Prita bala praja badhu. Yusmat krite bahun klesam. Yusmat krite bahun klesam. Prapta tokavati muhu. Prapta tokavati muhu. Samstite tirte pandau. Prita bala prajavadhu. Yasmat krite bahun klesam. Prata ko tokavati muhu. Samstite tirte pandau. Rita bala prajavadhu. Yusmat krite bahun klesam. Prapta tokavati muhu. Please chant.
Samstite attirate pandau.
Samstite tirte pandau.
Vritabala prajavadu.
Rita bala prajavadhu.
Yusmat krite bahun klesham.
Yusmat krite bahun klesam.
Prapta tokavati muhu.
Prapta tokavati muhu.
Samstite tirthe pandau.
Samstite tirte pandau.
Prita vala
Prita bala
prajavadu.
prajavadhu.
Yusmat krite bahun klesam.
Yusmat krite bahun klesam.
Prapta tokavati muhu.
Prapta tokavati muhu. Samstite. After the demise. Atirate. Of the great general. Pandau. Pandu. Prita. Kunti. Balapraja. Having young children. Vadhu. My daughter-in-law. Yusmat krite. On your account. Bahun. Multifarious. Klesa. Affliction. Prapta. Underwent. Tokavati. In spite of having grown-up boys. Muhu. Constantly. Samstite tirte pandau pritabala prajavadhu. Yusmat krite bahun klesan prapta tokavati muhu. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. Abhay Charanarinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. As far as my daughter-in-law Kunti is concerned, upon the great General Pandu's death, she became a widow with many children, and therefore she suffered greatly. And when you were grown up, she suffered a great deal also because of your actions. Please repeat. As far as my daughter-in-law Kunti is concerned,
As far as my daughter-in-law is concerned,
upon the great General Pandu's death,
upon the great General Pandu's death,
she became a widow
she became a widow
with many children,
with many children,
and therefore she suffered greatly.
and therefore she suffered greatly.
And when you were grown up,
And when you were grown up,
she suffered a great deal also
she suffered a great deal also
because of your actions.
because of your actions.
As far as my daughter-in-law Kunti is concerned, upon the great General Pandu's death, she became a widow with many children, and therefore she suffered greatly. And when you were grown up, she suffered a great deal also because of your actions. Purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charnarvanda Bhaktivedanta Swami Shiva Prabhupada. The sufferings of Kunti Devi are doubly lamented. She suffered greatly because of early widowhood and to get her minor children brought up in the royal family. And when her children were grown up, she continued to suffer because of her son's actions. So her suffering continued. This means that she was destined to suffer by providence. And this one has to tolerate without being disturbed. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshusam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. This is Grandfather Bhishma speaking, isn't it? Yes, Grandfather Bhishma did say. So he's speaking and revealing his own feelings about Queen Kunti's suffering. So this is the nature of a devotee. Thinking, here he is, laying on his, say, deathbed. And he's thinking about the suffering of others. I got the realization yesterday, which Ajay Prabhu was a witness of. This world is not a playground for us to be making a permanent residence of. And this realization came by the fact is we are in this material world and we are all subject to what we are calling death. Time in which we have to end the experience we are having in this mortal world. And that is due to the fact that we have committed some offense to cause us to be subject to death. Because all those souls in the spiritual realm that have never left the spiritual realm, they don't die. And of course, Krishna is as well explaining for us to understand more deeply about the transmigratory process that what we are calling death is. And then we come to a deep appreciation for the fact that Krishna is giving us this knowledge, because we are the very rare people in this world that are able to see by Krishna's words what this world is all about. And so what we can look at initiation as is a death of what we previously were living to the awakening of a new life that Krishna is giving us for us to be able to see ahead the way to live. And so in effect, that's what initiation is. It's a rebirthing, so to speak. Even the Bible talks about when one comes to the understanding of realizing the need to surrender to God, then they start to adhere to the understanding God is giving them about everything. Because we have formulated in our minds before surrendering to God sometimes the cause of coming to surrendering to God is like being put through such extreme forms of suffering. But when we do surrender, then we come to learn from Krishna himself personally through his servants, directly giving us understanding of his words. That's what these purports are, and that's what our experiences are supposed to help us to do, realize the meanings of these purports so that we can give the meanings to others as well. But I was broken to tears yesterday because it brought me to the awareness of the fact that I had myself also committed such an offense to have caused me to be put into this planet, which I was considering to be a place to make a very peaceful dwelling for myself, here, comfortable place to live, but it's not our permanent dwelling, man. We can't forget that. We have to have the proper perspective towards where we want to get to. And so in developing the mentality towards the proper mentality towards this world, because we're constantly being reminded by these transcendental literatures. The word transcendental carries with it the meaning going beyond the things of this material world. So, in studying the Gurukulis in their approach to learning, in the morning they would recite, I think this is what, 7, there's about 9 verses here, verses.
It's 8, I think it's 8.
8 verses, 11 verses. And they would recite these every morning, by rote, by memory.
Nice.
And they develop with this, in the storage of that memory, what will carry with them throughout their life. While I've been taking this rejuvenation for memory, it's bringing me the awareness of the fact that when children are taught transcendental knowledge from the very young ages, all the memories that they have stored will be that which is of a transcendental nature. So all the experiences they will be having through their entire life will carry them through. They won't have any more or less dying to do. It will be just from beginning to end, a relationship with Krishna, a friendship with Krishna. But even just this first verse brings us to understand the significance of all these precepts we're learning about Krishna. And I used to love to hear these young boys and girls chanting this, because as they were chanting it each and every day, it's becoming a reality to them as well. And see, it's like Lord Buddha. His father protected him from the outside world. He didn't even know what death was till he reached maybe 14 or 15 years old. And then when he saw that, he wanted, he's being Krishna as well. He had love for others to want to resolve the problems of others. That's what our heart is intended towards, wanting to help others and bring them out of the bondage that this material world actually is bringing us into. So here's the first verse. Jai Shri Jai 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 Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam Jiva Vegam Udaro Pashta Vegam Etan Vega Yogi Sahita Dira Sarvam Apimam Pritivim Sasisyat. Translation is a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So, this verse, Srila Prabhupada gives a very long purport. Because included in the understanding of this verse is revealing the important significance of developing abilities as human beings that are not on the level of normalcy. They are themselves transcendent. Because these urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals are being experienced by people being controlled by them. And what the Vedas are giving us the ability to do is to overcome the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals, which this verse is bringing out. And as well, it reveals, it's like 10 pages of purport. So you can imagine, it has within it all the understandings that when one fully realizes and applies it to their life, then as the verse says, they become qualified to make disciples.
That's nectar of instruction?
This is Upadeshamrita, yes, nectar of instruction, yes. Text 2, one's devotional service is spoiled. I should read the Sanskrit. The Sanskrit is so beautiful, actually, too. Atyahara prayasyascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangascha loyam cha sadbir bhaktir vinasiti. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. 1, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. 3, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them, and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5, associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6, being greedy for mundane achievements. And if we look at all these things, we come to realize these are all the things we were doing before coming to Krishna consciousness, but incorporated into the eating habits, into the living habits, is all these regulative, the means of fulfilling these regulative requirements. So into the food, I'm going to say, there are exceptions with some devotees that haven't fully understood the application scientifically. We were talking yesterday about spicing food because Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita as well. We can be making foods in the mood of rajas. Yeah, and so things are not meant to be overly spiced as well. These spices are an aid to the digestion and the health of the body. So they help fight off bacteria. All these spices have purposes with them. But, as the scripture points out, it's not for the satisfying of the tongue so much as it is for the purifying of the soul. And in so doing, the body also becomes purified. About 40 years ago, because when I first came to Krishna consciousness, realizing I had put into my body so many things that were not helpful.
Oh, dear Lord.
in the forms of meat and like that. There are extreme forms of emptying the body of these things. And so I went through this process of eliminating all these poisons from your body. In that eliminating process, what can happen is you can become seriously ill and die if you don't use these herbs properly to counteract the reaction from those elements that will suck the things out of your body. So the preparation of foodstuffs is a science, and Srimati Radharani is the queen of that science. So we prepare according to those foodstuffs that are described as that which is pleasing to Krishna. So text 3, Utsahan Nishchaya Daryat Tatat Karma Pravartana Sangatyagat Sadovrite Sadbir Bhakti Prasiddhiti. There are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. 1, being enthusiastic. 2, endeavoring with confidence. 3, being patient. 4, acting according to regulative principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. 5, abandoning the association of non-devotees. And 6, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. Yeah. These are preliminary books written as a means of approaching Shrimadbhagavatam. And yet they are so deep. The thing about Krishna consciousness is the preliminary learning includes the most advanced as well with it. See how we're saying here, by full realization of even these verses, one becomes qualified to make disciples and one becomes free from karma. Text 4, Dadati pratigrinati guyamakyati prichati bhunte bhojayate chaiva sadhujam vritilasa. Did you go to Gurukul and learn these things, or you learned these?
That I learned, that I had in my plus 2.
See, that's incorporated. That was in India?
Yes. Sanskrit.
See, this is what I'm saying. Incorporated into teaching in India's schoolrooms is the precepts that develop moral character. These would never be thought of as being preached in the United States. And yet, they are the very building blocks of a human being to be able to develop the qualities that are being described in the scriptures as necessary for a human being to be a human being. Offering gifts, translation, offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasad, and offering prasad are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. And here now we see being mentioned, the goal is love. All these interactions we are having with one another, being given by regulative activities, are all meant to give us the experience of pure love. And love for God includes in it then the way we will treat one another. Because if you're approaching God with love, who is the source of all love, and emanating from him is everything that he speaks, he's speaking out of love for the soul that he's giving the knowledge to, you can't help but walk away with a feeling of love towards others. You want to give it to others. Text 6. Dristai swabhava janatir vapusas tedoser na prakritat vamiha bhakta janasya pasyat gangam basam na karu buddha buddha pena pankar brahmadravatvam apagachati niradharmai. Translation: being situated in his original Krishna conscious position, a pure devotee does not identify with the body. Such a devotee should not be seen from a materialistic point of view. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee's having a body born in a low family, a body with a bad complexion, a deformed body, or a diseased or informed body. According to ordinary vision, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee, but despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. It is exactly like the waters of the Ganges, which sometimes, during the rainy season, are full of bubbles, foam, mud, and other such extremities that we will go into the discussion of. The Ganges waters do not become polluted. Those who are advanced in spiritual understanding will bathe in the Ganges without considering the condition of the water, because these waters are known to be coming directly from the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of God. Text 7. Shat Krishna Namacharitari Sitapiya Vidya Pitopatapta Rasanasya Narochikanu Kintwadvarad Nanudinam Kalu Saivajasta Swadvikramad Bhavati Tagara Mulahantri. The holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendentally sweet. Transcendentally sweet is beyond xylitol. Like sugar cane. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue, and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. So even though millions and millions of lifetimes, this root that we have had within us in the form of our desires, our longing, our lusting, Krishna can take that out in the very inside from the soul. Text 8. Tannama rupacharitari sikitananu smityo kramanena rasanamanasi niyodya tishtan rajetaranuragi jananugami kalam nayarakilam iti padeshasaram. Translation: the essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Raja, Goloka Dham, Goloka Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. See, that's what the temple actually is. When we have Radha Krishna and Tulsi Maharani, that's Vrindavan. That's Vrindavan for us. And that's what our mind, we've been conditioned by the material energy. Now, Krishna is giving us the ability to surrender to the conditioning of the spiritual energy, which is transcendental, so that we can know the benefit that is available to us at every moment, this is saying, to experience the transcendental sweet nature of Krishna's names. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full-time 24 hours. So, text 9. I can't read this in the Sanskrit with proper meter. So I'm going to jump into the translation and we're moving into the end class. So I'm going to move into the translation. The holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. Superior to Mathurapuri is a transcendental forest of Vrindavan because of Krishna's Rasa Leela pastime. Sorry. Know what a Charlie horse is, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, when they strike, oh boy.
Bananas.
Yeah, it's bananas, all right.
Water, bananas. Yeah.
Charlie horse is gone, ran away. Superior to Mathurapuri is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan because of Krishna's Rasa Leela pastimes, and superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, for it was raised by the divine hand of Sri Krishna and was the site of his various loving pastimes, and above all, the super excellent Sri Radhakund stands supreme, for it is over flooded with the ambrosial nectarian prema of the Lord of Gokula, Sri Krishna. Where then is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this divine Radhakund, which is situated at the foot of Govardhan Hill? Text 10. In the Shastra, it is said that of all types of fruitive workers, he who is advanced in knowledge of the higher values of life is favored by the Supreme Lord Hari. Out of many such people who are advanced in knowledge, Gyanis, one who is practically liberated by virtue of his knowledge may take to devotional service. He is superior to the others. However, one who has actually attained prema, pure love of Krishna, is superior to him. The gopis are exalted above all the advanced devotees because they are always totally dependent upon Sri Krishna, the transcendental cowherd boy. Among the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Krishna. Her Kund, lake, is profoundly dear to Lord Krishna as this most beloved of the gopis. Who then will not reside at Radha Kund and in a spiritual body surcharged with ecstatic devotional feelings, a prakrita bhava, render loving service to the divine couple, Sri Radha Govinda, who perform their Astakaliya Leela, their eternal eightfold daily pastime. Indeed, those who execute devotional service on the banks of Radhakund are the most fortunate people in the universe. Right next to the temple in Vrindavan, Banka Bihari temple. This described here that they are eternally engaged in. They go to that temple and perform that pastime. When we make offerings on the altar here, Krishna leaves remnants. There's normally no remnants left there. So when they bring the offering onto the temple, when they take the offering off, there's nothing left. It's all taken, it's all accepted. So you can imagine the purity in the heart of the devotee who has been offering at that temple, and how long. Also, there is a temple in India, there is a bird. Now that's strikingly peculiar because this is somewhat like the phoenix bird. The phoenix bird is said it gives birth once in 100 years. Wow, maybe that's what I was seeing. This superstition mountain in Arizona is held sacred by the Native American Indians. And they have a bird there that comes on this mountain once in 100 years to lay its offspring that will replace it. So that's how the demigods are, you see. So even these so-called legends and so-called folklore of old that are looked upon by the American civilization as being only folk stories, made-up stories, they nevertheless reveal aspects of the personality of Godhead that we also hold as truth. So we have in common with them the belief system that in the knowledge of God amongst those who are close to God have this as common knowledge, you might say. Krishna. Text 11. Krishnas yochai pranaya vasati prayasibo pi pradha. Of the many objects of favored delight and of all the lovable damsels of Brajabhumi, Shrimati Radharani is certainly the most treasured object of Krishna's love. And in every respect, her divine Kund is described by great sages as similarly dear to him. Undoubtedly, Radha Kund is very rarely attained, even by the great devotees. Therefore, it is even more difficult for ordinary devotees to attain. If one simply bathes once within those holy waters, one's pure love of Krishna is fully aroused. I went to Radha Kund in 1988, but because they were clean, they emptied it out. They do this once every 7 or 8 years or so, I don't know how often, but they were cleaning it out, and they pump the water all the way up a hill into the city and use the water to clean all the streets.
Oh, nice.
So I was there, and the streets were being flooded with water from this. Radha Kund was made by Shrimati Radharani's bangles. And it stands today as a pond endlessly being filled with water coming from under the ground. So she created this herself, and this is evidence, confidential evidence to devotees. I went there and couldn't even bathe in the waters. When Srila Prabhupada went, the devotees were treating Radha Kund like a normal pond to swim in, jumping in. No, but you first respect, even from a distance, you offer respects. The Kund itself is the most sacred thing to Krishna himself. It's because it was made with her tears also. In separation she was feeling from Krishna when he went to Kurukshetra. So see, on the one hand, we see Krishna as the cause of this battle because of his staunch, immaculate fulfillment in bodily form of truth, justice, righteousness, holiness, everything that is sacred. So in effect, by that being that, as his character fulfilling that, he has to reveal what that is in order for mankind to know what justice is and how justice should be carried out. But on the other hand, his love, that love Srimati Radharani is expressing for him, is also his reciprocative love for her. She feels that for him because of his feelings towards her. So then, as absolute love, we can see in Srimati Radharani that this war itself pulling him away from her. That's what war does. So to her, this was the most devastating thing that could be done by human beings to cause her most beloved to be pulled away. See how that is a representation of how war of humanity affects God. Affects God and his love, the completeness of his love being separated by war. Her love for Krishna was separated by that war of Kurukshetra.
Wow.
And that love drove her to cry upon that remains to this day.
That's crazy.
Yeah?
Yesterday is the appearance of Radha.
Say that again.
Yesterday is the appearance day of Radha.
Really?
Bahulashrams.
I didn't even know that. Peculiar, isn't it? See how Krishna does?
I didn't hear what he said.
Yesterday was the appearance of Shrimati Radharani's Kund. I didn't know that.
I'll be.
Yeah. See, I was moved to even speak about it. I didn't figure that out. I didn't plan on that. It just happened. Just come out. But that's the way Krishna is, and that's how he reveals to you that he knows what you're talking about. And he's inspiring. He's the one that gives us the privilege of our mouths being used to speak about him. And that's what the Upadeshamrita is bringing us to the point of surrender for. And that experience, so just now, just such a touching experience for me when you said that, you know, and I didn't even know it was. What they used to say, what is it? The mushroom philosophy. They keep you in the dark and they feed you BS. But see, mushrooms prosper very well like that. We consider mushrooms a fungus, right? So we don't eat mushrooms, but they're also used as an exemplary example of things that can flourish prosperously in this world, even though they don't exist on the truth. They're not living on the truth. So I was just reading in 7th Canto as well, where there's a verse in there that would just blow your mind about everything we make to be great in this world, and how if the soul doesn't reject all those things in its aloofness, become aloof from all those things in its attachment to all those things, it will be then again forced to be connected to all those things again. And all these things are based on beginning and ending.
What is that verse?
Which means, what is it?
What is the text?
Text Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 7. Well, if you get it out, it's marked right where I got the marker. And it's the 4th book on the 2nd shelf down to the right. And it's all about household life. And you know, the ideal that we set in our minds that household life is exactly what Bhagavatam is saying is keeping us in this world. And that the normal state of the soul is to be completely happy. And Srila Prabhupada, he says, the second we go out looking for happiness, it's the way we cause distress to ourselves. Is the cause of our distresses. And then when I give some thought about that, I realize, well, when we're going out to find happiness, we're automatically admitting that we don't have it.
Right.
Which means we don't know what we are. Now, this is Prahlad Maharaj speaking to his friends.
Prahlad Maharaj?
Yeah. Here we are. Oh, my dear friends. Oh, sons of the demons. You cannot please the Supreme Personality of Godhead by becoming perfect Brahmins, demigods, or great saints, or by becoming perfectly good, inadequate, or vast learning. None of these qualifications can awaken the pleasure of the Lord. I didn't know that. Nor by charity, austerity, sacrifice, cleanliness, or vows can one satisfy the Lord.
Repeat that.
Nor by charity, austerity, sacrifice, cleanliness, or vows can one satisfy the Lord. The Lord is pleased only if one has unflinching, unalloyed devotion to Him. Without sincere devotional service, everything is simply a show. So, now he's further distinguishing what devotional service is. So this is what we're also saying in the movement, is that all of our normal activities that we are engaging in ourselves in, hoping to become perfect in, will have no significance unless we can link ourselves by using that energy in the eternal energy's purpose. And so that was, to me, wow. Because he's even naming all the things as devotees that we consider to be an object of art. But it is devotional service. See, what recently has been somehow affecting my ability to restrain from tears is that when I first came to the movement, to be able to gain entrance onto the altar to perform activities directly related to Krishna on the altar, you had to wait in line. You might wait for a month to be able to do that one night.
Wow.
Now, we're having to struggle. Devotees are calling up, I can't make it today. Somebody else cover my sermon. We have this going on a regular basis now. Cooking also, same way. Different cook every day for a month.
Don't you have to be a Brahmin?
Same thing with class, different teacher for a whole month. We wouldn't see the same teacher. And it was fully complete realizations because it's everybody's realizations being combined. Now I cry. I can't help it. It's not what it was. And we were expanding exponentially from what we're doing now, but not with people holding jobs. We shouldn't be required of having a full-time job to be engaged in Krishna consciousness, but it's the way it is. Vichitavirya, 1991. I typed for him a paper he called ISKCON in Transition. And at that time, everyone that was taking part in the programs was considering themselves a full-time devotee. Nobody had jobs. Everything we did was centered around promoting, coming to the Sunday feast, promoting distribution of books, promoting temple worship, all these things. And like I say now, we have a hard time struggling to keep a skeleton crew going. Churchapad wants to go to, I forget where he's even going now, but now it requires 3 or 4 other devotees to be able to cover his service.
Right. Don't you have to be a Brahmin to do any of those things?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was going on monthly. We would have sacrifices here with initiations going on.
Monthly?
Yes. Monthly, lots of preaching going on, I'm telling you. Yeah. It's not happening like it was. But see, too, I'm limited my experience within this temple. And the devotees in the United States are limited to their vision of what's going on in the United States. But we know Europe is exploding like we were 40 years ago. Europe, because these countries have been under so much religious oppression for so long, and even the forms of religion they were being given was not completely satisfying. They're jumping in by the hordes, and you can go online and see the celebrations they're having when they chant out in the streets and people start joining in with them, because they start finding the happiness that life is supposed to be, singing and dancing, and with pure hearts, to know pure joy and happiness that you're supposed to be having. Not that they're producing in the comedic scripts that make fun of other human beings and put down the realities of human life and make disparaging remarks about leaders and so many things that put in our minds irreverential thoughts and concepts and ideas that keep us from being able to experience the pure relationships that human beings are meant to be experiencing with one another. So in a sense, that protection that Lord Buddha's father gave to him as a child allowed him, while he was under the protection of his father, to only experience that the human beings are meant to experience. So we know there is a distinction between dwelling in the sacred places and then going out into that dog-eat-dog world, as it's called, by its own dog-eat-dog world, by its own declarations. Oh, dogs are eating the dogs and time is passing. Yes, the time has overpassed. Are there any comments, any questions, any realizations? Yes, Mark. So good to have you class.
You know, in the West, you hardly survive if you don't have a job. I mean,
That's right.
How can you?
The whole society has to be changed. And when I see, if you expose yourself to what's going on in Congress, you really know that it is a dog-eat-dog. They are at each other's throats constantly. These are representatives appointed by the general people as being the best of the society to represent the whole. And if you see what they do to each other in their corners of debate, it's supposed to be for debate. It's not debate. My father and I would come home from work, my father would say, let's argue.
You are?
And later I came to appreciate that, but we argued with the understanding that we were arguing to prove each other's point, and whichever one came out more persuasive, then it would be agreed upon. Not these people. They purposely fight against each other because they're on opposite sides and cannot find, that's why government's closed down now. They cannot find a means of cooperating. Srila Prabhupada's words, you will prove your love to me by how much you cooperate with one another. Isn't that amazing? Mm-hmm. Who do you know of any other leader of any organization that ever even realized the need for such a thing? And that's what's really lacking in people's experience of government. They don't feel represented because government now, by the people, for the people, but the people have grown to such extent that it is impossible. Everyone has to realize one man can't represent 1 million people if he's not self-realized. And all these people who are appointing someone to represent them are not being represented because the people who are put in these positions are not qualified. The first steps of qualification is coming to realize this devotional service. And devotional service is what is missing from, there was no need for a monetary exchange before the United States was established. They exchange by labor and by goods.
Barter system.
And it's less cheating that way as well, because it's an agreed upon value by the two participants. I'll give you this for that. No, I need a little bit more than that for this, and that kind of thing went on. And it was a relationship that people formed. Now, even the exchange, it's cheating to begin with. That's why all these malls are closing down. These malls, is being found out, were normally charging 10 times the amount it was costing them for products, in most cases, in a lot of cases. And when the businesses were originally established, if it cost you 50 cents to produce a product, you could reasonably charge $1 for it. But then what happens when taxes are put on top of that, and then people are not only taxed, first, you work at a job, then they tax you. Before you get the money, it's taxed, right? When you spend it, it's taxed again. When you invest it, taxed again. So this cheating propensity, the representatives have become so expert at extracting funds from the public that the public doesn't even count. They don't even know how much they're extracting from them. Their money is, if they say 3%, that same dollar that they spent today has been charged 3% 10 times before it's ended of its day's work. Because it goes from here to the cash register, the guy working at the cash register, he takes it from his cash register to another cash register. That cash register, he has to buy gas, he goes to another cash. That thing's been taxed 10 times in one day, that dollar. And they've learned so much, they get so much money out of the general public, they spend it however they want, and they fill their own bank accounts with it. That's what's going on. And it takes 10, 15 years of doing this before they even get enough emphasis to be able to do it. And by that time, the law has drawn it out so they can't even be held accountable for it. That's how corrupt the system is. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And this is American government being believed by the participants to be the most superior form of government that has ever existed in all existence. It's the mentality of the United States people, of the United population, and I was one of them.
Okay, but can you name one that is better?
When it gets better.
One that is better.
When it is better.
One governments are about extracting money and stuff like that.
Right. Well, see, when devotional service is engaged in, first of all, the military are the administrative class. So in a society when there is an emperor, then as Manu explains, then within each nation as well, there are nations divided by thousands and by hundreds. And in those smaller groups, the conclusions drawn by the smaller groups are discussed by representatives of each smaller group. And then those discussions that take place the same size, representatives chosen from each smaller group get into the same size group again to represent each of the other groups. And then by their decisions, other groups can be established. And see, nothing goes without everybody agreeing. That's the way government was once held.
That's the way ours was built.
What is it?
I think that's the way ours was built.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of Native American Indian communities were functioning in that capability, but without the force of the military that was predominant by the settlers coming here. They didn't even believe that you could own land, the Native American Indians. I don't know of any of them. They were very nomadic people, but even of the ones that used land to settle with, they didn't hold it as their. They didn't hold the rivers as belonging to them. They didn't believe any of this was ownable by exchange of papers, which is what we're doing. We put paper from my hand to your hand and say that the land I've been living on is now yours. That's crazy. Everything belongs to God. Every sacred literature in the world proclaims that the earth is the Lord's. But sinful activity has driven what would be normal people into taking part in activities in their lives that they wouldn't take part in if there was not sin. There would not be a need for police if there was not sin. And all these things that have been established in societies as normal now is so far out of whack from the relationship man originally had with God. And he's got so much buildup of karma when he's even born. He has to work and slave, it says, by the sweat of his brow. When in the beginning, man was at a place where everything was provided. It's described in the Bible as the land as having been, everything needed for foodstuffs was ready to pick and eat. That was it. And there wasn't, I don't even think they were cooking food that time. But modern society believes, well, that's primitive. We can't go back to that kind of living situation. But rather we would live under the conditions by which some societies would consider it slavery, to be forced to work and toil at a very demanding job for 10, 12, 14 hours a day. And you have to go, or else you will lose the ability to have work at that job. And this is causing people to die early. And then they have all their hopes and gains that they'll get at the end of their life, but the job is so demanding, it wears them out before they have a chance to use what they've earned. And they work in it's a form of slavery, because all the work they're doing is by the demand of the senses of the physical body. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Is there anything else people are doing? This entertainment is all mating, enjoying, and it's all geared around the senses of the body, and that's what this Upadeshamrita is bringing about. When we gain control of the mind is what's bothering us with our dissatisfaction with the way things are, because we're not fully aware of the availability of the bliss that we are that is available to us to experience simply by tasting the nectar of Krishna's names. Yeah. But we supplant it with other things because we want to try what we don't know, I guess, in many cases. We won't accept other people's mistakes as instruction for us. We're not trying ourselves. But Bhagavatam is giving us that which we can learn from without having to go through the failures and mishaps, and then gain the benefit. Any comments, any questions, Does that answer your question? I forget what the question was. Time. Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada. And this might not even be on because the microphone was sitting the whole time in the slow loop. I didn't know it was under the flower. It may not have picked up.